Hello everyone, welcome to Learn with Wasim. This is Muhammad Wasim Khan, an instructor of your project training and management course. I hope you all are doing well. As you know that in the previous lecture we have, or the group of lectures we have discussed the project scope management, in which we have discussed different processes, their inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. Today we are going to start the next lesson, and the lesson is lesson number 6, project schedule management. After the successful completion of this lesson, we will be able to comprehend the project schedule management knowledge area and associated processes. We will define the project tasks and activities sequencing using project network diagrams. We will discuss how to estimate activity durations and develop the project schedule using critical path method and program evaluation and review technique. This lesson will take time because we will have to discuss each and every process in detail, and that will take too much time. So that's why we have divided the lesson number 6 into lesson 6A and lesson 6B. In today's lecture, we will discuss the first two processes, that is plan schedule management and define activities. And in the next lectures, we will discuss the sequence activities, estimate activity durations, develop schedule, and control schedule. So let's talk about the project schedule management. Project schedule management include the processes like the plan schedule, define different activities, sequence those activities, estimate the durations, activity durations or times, or the starting or ending times for each activity, then develop the schedule and control the schedule. So let's start with the plan schedule management. Plan schedule management is the process of establishing the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, developing, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. It provides guidance and direction on how the project schedule will be managed throughout the project. So in this particular process, we will try to establish the policies and the procedures on all the documents that are required for planning, for developing, for managing, and then executing and controlling the project schedule. So there are some inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs for this particular process. Input include the project management plan, project charter, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process. And you know that we have discussed all of these inputs in the previous chapters, lessons, or lectures. The tools and techniques are expert judgment, analytical technique, and meetings. Again, we have discussed that. And the output that we will achieve are the schedule management plan. So we are not going to discuss the input because we have discussed inputs, in the different previous lectures. Let's move toward the tools and techniques. And as you know that we have discussed the expert judgment, that it provides valuable insight about the environment and information from prior similar projects. It can also suggest whether to combine methods and how to reconcile differences between them. So in expert judgment, the different experts from different specialties, they combine and they discuss different problems, different grades, and and with the help of the knowledge from the previous similar projects, they actually take decisions. The next one is the analytical techniques. So choosing strategic options to estimate and schedule the project, such as scheduling methodology or scheduling tools and techniques, estimating approaches, formats, and project management software. So there are different analytical techniques that we will discuss in this particular chapter, such as the CPM methodology, or the critical path method. We will discuss. We will discuss some scheduling tools and techniques, and we will discuss different estimating approaches, the formats, and project management software. And the third one is a meeting. So meeting is, again, that project teams may hold planning meetings to develop schedule management plan, and in meeting different experts, they sit, they actually discuss different problems, and they provide solution to those particular problems in order to achieve their goals and objectives. Okay, the major output of the planned schedule management process is the schedule management plan. A component of the project, a schedule management plan is a component of the project management plan that establishes the criteria and the activities for developing, monitoring, and controlling the schedule. Okay, the schedule management plan may be formal or informal, highly detailed or broadly framed based upon the needs of the project. So that actually depend on the need of the project, the goals of the project, or the objective of the project, whether the schedule management plan should be formal or informal. It should be in detail or broadly framed. The schedule management plan can establish the project schedule model development, the scheduling methodology, and the scheduling tool to be used in the development of project schedule model are specified. So we will discuss those methodologies. Then the level of accuracy. Okay, accuracy mean you can see on the screen 5 plus minus 1 mean or plus minus 2. That means that how accurate your project is, how accurate are your durations, how accurate is your time or duration for every particular activity. So lower level of accuracy is the acceptable range that is used in determining realistic activity duration estimate. Here we actually mean level of accuracy mean that we can have a tolerance level plus or minus. Okay, the units of measure, that is we value different units of measure like staff hours. We can use the staff days or weeks, or we can use other like meters or liters or tons or kilometers. So these are different types of the units that we can use for measuring different variables. Then control thresholds, variance thresholds for monitoring schedule performance to indicate an agreed upon amount of variation to be allowed before some actions needed to be taken. So that means that we will have some control threshold. We can, um, allow some amount of variation in different particular activities of the project. Then we can have the rules of performance measurement, like earned value. If you want to measure the performance, you will have to you should have some rules or tools, and that is one of them is the earned value management tools or other physical measurement tools of performance measurement. So we can use different tools for if we or rules if you want to measure the performance of your project, and that is the earned value management. And inshallah we will discuss earned value management and some other measurement rules in the coming slides or in the coming lectures. And the last one is reporting formats. The formats and frequency of various schedule reports are actually defined. Obviously, every schedule report will have a particular format. So that will be defined in reporting formats. The next process is then define the activity. And defining activity is a process of identify the specific actions or tasks that to be taken or to be performed to produce the project deliverables. So the activities, defining activities mean that you are actually defining the actions, defining the tasks that need to be performed here in order to produce the project deliverables. And the key benefit of this process is to break down the work packages into the activities that you can see on the screen that provide a basis for estimating, scheduling, executing, monitoring, and controlling the project work. So the big key benefit of this process is to break down the work package as we have discussed in the work breakdown structure, that we will actually break down the work package into the activities that provide a basis for estimating, for scheduling, executing, monitoring, and controlling the project work. The create work breakdown structure process identifies the deliverables at the lowest level in the work breakdown structure, and that is the work package. Work package are typically decomposed into smaller components, and those components are called activities that present the work necessary to complete the work package. As you know, that we have discussed all of these different topics like the work breakdown structure, the work packages, the control accounts, the activities, etc. in the previous lectures as well. So for defining activities, we have some inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs like other processes. The inputs include a schedule management plan, scope baseline, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. So we have discussed almost all of those inputs. Let's talk about the tools and techniques. So the first tool is decomposition. What is decomposition? By the way, I hope you all know what actually decomposition is. Decomposition is to divide something into the smaller parts. So yes, decomposition is a technique which is used for dividing and subdividing the project scope and project deliverables into smaller and more manageable parts. In the adjacent figure, or the figure that is I'm drawing on the screen, that show that actually the work package is divided into different parts or different activities so that it can be managed easily. So activities represent the effort needed to complete a work package. The defined activities process defines the final outputs as activities rather than deliverable, as done in the create workflow structure. So each work package within the work breakdown structure is decomposed into the activities that you can see at the right side of your screen to produce the work package deliverables. So then we can have the tools and techniques like the rolling web planning and expert judgment. So I won't explain the expert judgment because you know what actually an expert judgment is. Let's discuss the rolling wave planning. Rolling wave planning is an iterative or repetitive planning technique in which the work to be accomplished in the near term is planned in detail, while the work in the future is planned at a higher level. So in this particular technique, we actually, the work that is to be accomplished in the near term, in the near future, that is planned in detail. But the work in the, far future is planned at the higher level. Therefore, the work can exist at various levels of detail depending on where it is in the project life cycle. As more is known about the upcoming events in the near term, work packages can be decomposed into activities. So actually, we decompose the work packages into many activities as possible because it will help us to manage the project very easily. And managing activity is much easier than managing the whole work package. So that is called rolling wave planning. Now let's talk about the outputs. And outputs include the activities list. When you define the activities that are needed to be performed in order to complete the project, you will have to list those activities. So that is very important to list those activities, and the activity list also include the activity identifier, you know, and a scope of work description for each activity. So for each activity, we will provide some important details of the activity, like activity identifier and the scope or the description of each activity, etc. Then we will have the activity attributes. Activity attributes extend the description of activity by identifying the multiple components that are associated with each activity, which evolve over time. And activity and attribute include the activity identifier. As you know, as we have discussed earlier, that activity identifier can be a code or a number, which is a unique code or a number that will be given to an activity. Or the work breakdown structure ID, like for students, we have a student's ID or registration number, and that student ID or registration number is unique. Similarly, for every activity, we will have a different identifier and different ID. Then activity name, that what is the name of that particular activity, okay, that you are going to perform. And the logical activity codes, the activity description, you will have to provide description of activity, that what we are going to perform in a particular activity. And then you will discuss the predecessor activities and successor activities. This means that the activities that would perform before, for example, activity 1, 2, 3 that are performed before activity 4, and activity 5, 6, and 7 that are will be performed after activity 4. And the logical relationship, the layers and legs, the resource requirements imposed as constraints and assumptions. So we will discuss most of these things, inshallah, in the coming lecture, or all of these things in the coming lectures. Then we will have the milestone list. A milestone, as we have discussed earlier in the previous chapters, that it is a significant point or event in a project. A milestone list is a list that identifies all the project milestones and indicates whether the milestone is mandatory or optional. So milestones are similar to regular scheduled activities but have zero durations. So you can see the work package to activities that we have discussed in the previous slides, that the project is building a house. And building a house is defined into three control accounts, that is design, construction, and finishing. And then design is further divided into the map and sketching. And map is again further divided into, different activities. Similarly, sketching is divided into different activities. And if we move toward the construction, then foundation and structure, utilities, finalizing, these are the basic components of the construction that are further divided into other components, so that we can easily manage this particular project. This is another example of work packages, like how we can decompose a work into different parts. Yeah, job analysis project is one of the projects, and we have divided it into the preparation for job analysis and conducting job analysis. Now, preparation for job analysis is further divided into it, identify the job or job families, and finalizing the tools or instruments. Similarly, conducting the job analysis is further divided into manage interviews, then you will have to manage the questionnaire and develop the job uh, um, schedule and job description and job specification. Now, what you can see here is that every particular job have some identifier as well, or every particular box has some identifier, and we call this whole thing mobile down structure. And I gave you some of the some questions in the assignments regarding the mobile down structure as well. This is another example of the job analysis project that you can see on the screen. I'm not going to explain it. Okay, so that's all for today. Inshallah, in the coming lecture, or in the coming lectures, we will discuss the sequence activities and some other processes as well. Till then,